London, England, 1604. To end a dispute in the Anglican Church, King James I orders the creation of a standardized English Bible. Today, more than 4 centuries after its creation, the King James Version remains the most famous Bible in history and one of the most published books of all time. Interestingly, while it contains 66 books, the Catholic Bible has 73, and the Ethiopian Orthodox version is comprised of 81. But why were so many texts, including the Book of Enoch, edited out?
There has always been accepted literature, which becomes the foundation of orthodoxy, and then there's other literature that the accepted orthodoxy rejects.
Books that don't make it into the collection of the Bible, both the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, or the Apocrypha.
The word apocrypha means hidden things, and that's probably from the ancients hiding these texts away from the general public because they could be dangerous.
Dangerous? Is it possible that the Book of Enoch was omitted because it exposed truths about human history that were considered too risky for the public to know? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest insight can be found by examining a passage in the Old Testament.
We know from the book of Daniel in chapter 4 that there is a group of angelic entities whose job, whose role it is as ordained by God to direct the affairs of humanity. These angelic forces look over our world and control the direction of civilization.
While this passage is brief, these beings serve as the primary focus of the Book of Enoch, where they are described as divine overseers known as the Watchers.
Enoch calls them in the English version guardians of the sky or watchers of the sky. In the German version, they are called angels. No, it was simply another time. Now we have a new time. Now we must translate it with new words. Change the word of angel, trash it out, and write extraterrestrial.
These angels were not spiritual beings, they were physical beings. That is something very clear about the identity of biblical angels. They're not of this world, and therefore they are not terrestrial, and therefore they are extraterrestrial.
According to the Book of Enoch, a total of 200 Watchers descended to Earth.
Enoch gives us some of the names, but we know they were ruled by Semyaza and Azazel. Azazel was later known as Lucifer.
The Watchers had a very bright appearance, and one of their names was the Shining Ones. And even Enoch, when he wrote about them, he even said he could barely look at them because they were so bright.
As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, the idea that the Watchers were alien visitors is most strongly corroborated by the stories of the prophet Elijah.
Aside from Enoch, there is one other we know from the Bible who did ascend to heaven in chariots of fire, whatever that is meaning. And this, of course, is the famous prophet Elijah. Elijah was a powerful, powerful prophet who had abilities apparently far beyond those of other prophets.
Elijah possessed a power cloak or a garment that gave him the ability to heal the sick and even to raise the dead. And then one day, he used that power cloak or garment to ascend upon a fiery chariot, a chariot of the gods. And when Elijah ascended, there were 50 prophets that witnessed his ascension.
The Bible calls it chariot of fire. Now, what is this chariot? Was it some type of a technological transportation device which in ancient times would not have been understood as anything else but a chariot of fire?
Curiously, while the idea of the soul ascending to heaven is a key component of Judeo-Christian traditions, there are a number of instances in the Bible where it is said that a person ascends bodily. In addition to Enoch and Elijah, This is also the case with both Jesus and his mother Mary. But why? If heaven is a spiritual realm, why is it written that certain individuals ascended bodily?
Neither Enoch nor Elijah ever claimed that they were prophets. It was the biblical writers later who claimed that they're prophets. The reason why Enoch ended up being called a prophet is because of the experiences he had. He was taken up into space by extraterrestrials. And we have a similar story with Elijah. Enoch, Elijah, it's all part of the big concept of misunderstood technology.
Manchester, New York, September 21st, 1823. As he settles into bed, a 17-year-old farmhand named Joseph Smith begins to say his prayers. Suddenly, without warning, an overpowering light envelops his room, and a robed figure appears. According to Smith's account, not only was his robe exceedingly white, but his whole person was glorious beyond description. Speaking from the center of the light, the angel, whose name is Moroni, sends Smith on a quest for several sacred texts hidden near a local tree.
Upon locating the tree, Joseph dug and indeed found the texts. But they recorded a language which he could not read. A second visitation from Moroni told Joseph Smith where he could find what we might call a device of some kind that would allow him to read the text.
Joseph Smith was given this translating stone, the Urim and the Thummim, with which he was able to not only write down this text, but also to be able to translate it.
He then translated the texts into English, which become the Book of Mormon. And it depicts, among other things, that after Jesus ascended into heaven, he came to the Americas and ministered to the native peoples here to convert them to his way of life, and that at some point the texts that become the Book of Mormon are deposited here so that Joseph Smith could find them.
7 years later, Smith publishes these texts as part of the Book of Mormon, establishing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a denomination with more than 15 million followers today. Many religions worldwide have been founded with the help of angels. Whether they're representatives of Christian, Muslim, or Buddhist gods, these apparitions are thought to be a way the gods intervene on earth with humans.
Angels, when they appear in religious legends and in myths, generally are messengers between the heavenly realm and the human realm.
Throughout the Bible, we have stories of angels and demons appearing to mankind. In fact, Paul says that you be careful how you entertain strangers, because some of you entertain angels unaware. The Bible is very clear that angels can take on human form and appear in the likeness of man.
But ancient astronaut theorists suggest that sometimes these heavenly visions and apparitions may not actually be angels sent by an omniscient God. And curiously, the so-called angel that led Joseph Smith to the sacred texts that would become the Book of Mormon did not profess to have heavenly origins, but claimed to be from another part of the universe.
Now, Moroni did not say that he was an angel. He said that at one time he had lived on Earth, but that now he came from the Pleiades star cluster. And he said there were many others like him.
When we look at the background of the Book of Mormon, we see some very interesting parallels to what could be an extraterrestrial tale. This angel Moroni that appears to Joseph Smith seems to be more than just chance. It's very possible that Joseph Smith was interacting with a type of extraterrestrial.
These extraterrestrials may be giving these messages to world leaders and to prophets and seers and mystics to let us know that we are the product of an extraterrestrial interbreeding and an ongoing contact with these other people who were not born on Earth. And we have lost touch with that history only because we refuse to believe the truth that is recorded in our historical books and see what's right in front of our faces, even now with the encounters that are happening in the modern world.
Rome, October 27th, 312 AD. Just north of the city, the Emperor Constantine leads his troops toward the Milvian Bridge and a decisive battle with Maxentius to reclaim his throne. At stake is control over the western part of the vast Roman Empire. According to an account from the historian Eusebius, on the eve of the battle, Constantine looks up into the sky and sees what he believes is a divine vision.
Constantine and his followers saw in the sky what their chroniclers say was a huge, white, fiery cross. Now, his followers didn't know what to make of this, but Constantine decided that this was the Christian cross.
Constantine feels, after viewing this extraordinary sign from the heavens, this lighted cross in the sky, that he will go forth the next day and he will conquer the Roman Empire. And this is exactly what he does. This vision becomes one of the crucial turning points in human history.
After winning the brutal Battle of Milvian Bridge, Constantine consolidates his power and begins a campaign of religious tolerance across the empire, and he himself converts to Christianity. But what exactly did Constantine see in the sky that ended up changing the course of Western civilization? Was it a divine vision or something else?
Don't we all see crosses up in the sky when we look at planes? Because you have lights on the sides and at the front. And if you have a little bit of light shining on it, sometimes they look like crosses. So we have to ask ourselves, is it possible that this was absolutely no Christian symbol at all, but that it was adapted over time after something that was witnessed up in the sky?
Is it possible that extraterrestrials were responsible for Constantine's vision? Ancient astronaut theorists say one compelling piece of evidence that aliens have tried to manipulate mankind through religious visions still exists today. Mexico City, December 1531. According to an account called the Nican Mopoa, published in the Aztec language of Nahuatl, a peasant named Juan Diego was walking in the countryside when he heard a beautiful voice singing on the other side of a hill. Diego climbed the hill and saw an angelic vision, a woman in white garments that shone like the sun.
And she said to him, "Juan Diego, I am the Virgin Mary, and I am asking you to build a sanctuary for me here on this hill." Well, Juan Diego fell to his knees in awe, and he said, "Great lady, I will do as you desire."
But according to the story, Juan Diego couldn't convince the local bishop that he had actually seen the Virgin Mary, so he went back to the hill, where he again saw the vision.
He says, "Lady, please give me a sign, because nobody believes me when I tell them that I have seen you." And she says, "Juan Diego, take off your cloak." And he does. He takes off his cloak, and she fills his cloak with roses.
He took the roses to the bishop, and the bishop fell down on his knees, because it wasn't the roses as to why he believed the story from Diego, but inside the tilma was a painting of the Virgin Mother. And the bishop believed, and they built the church on that hill.
This cloak still exists today, and despite its frail fabric, it has reportedly remained in pristine condition despite the cruel ravages of time.
Right now, you can go to the church and see the tilma hanging there, and it is not degraded over the 400 plus years that they've had it. It's been through a fire, it's been through an explosion, where purportedly an iron cross was twisted from the explosion, but the tilma right next to the cross was still fine.
Could the sacred image on the cloak really be evidence of a visitation by the Virgin Mary? Or might it have a different, otherworldly explanation? In addition to the tilma inexplicably enduring for hundreds of years, those who have studied it have found other unexplainable qualities.
Most bizarre of all are the eyes of the image. Approximately 7 to 8 millimeters wide, what we see inside those eyes is a highly enigmatic mystery, because it appears that there are characters in the eyes, the faces of the people who were there at the time that the tilma was unveiled by Our Lady of Guadalupe in 1531.
But if Our Lady of Guadalupe really does have otherworldly origins, did it come from a heavenly realm or somewhere else? Not only do ancient astronaut theorists believe Juan Diego's vision was an extraterrestrial encounter, but even some members of the church claim that it was something other than a religious experience.
Our Lady of Guadalupe is definitely a heavenly visitor. In my opinion, though, what her story said disagrees with what the Bible says. In fact, she said she would protect the people that worship at the church. What that does is really deify Mary, when the Bible is very clear that only God can protect those that serve him. And so any otherworldly being that demands worship or respect, it cannot be an angel from God.
Mount Sodom, Israel. A pillar of rock salt known as Lot's wife overlooks the southwestern part of the Dead Sea, near the presumed location of the biblical cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. In both the Hebrew book of Genesis and the Islamic Quran, angels traveled to the spot to warn Abraham's nephew Lot that God was about to unleash terror upon the world.
And the angel finally says to Lot, if you don't come now with your family, 2 girls and the wife, I cannot help you anymore. It looks as if a countdown was working, which could not be stopped anymore, if even the angel cannot stop it.
And sure enough, they walk away, and there's this mayhem and destruction. His wife turns around, and she turns into a pillar of salt. Since the ancient astronaut theory proposes that angels were nothing else but misinterpreted flesh and blood extraterrestrials, this means that extraterrestrials did side with certain people. Were angels or extraterrestrials interfering with human development?
But if angels save Lot and his family from the wrath of God, is this proof that angels are more than just otherworldly messengers? Might they be more actively engaged in helping their human counterparts, even to the extent that they might still be affecting the outcome of human history? Once again, ancient astronaut theorists look to the Book of Enoch for their answer, and claim to have found evidence in its references to a race of fallen angels known as Watchers.
There's much debate amongst religious scholars about the fallen angels. Some say they were deliberately sent here to watch over man. And in the Book of Enoch specifically, we have 20 watchers which are sort of in charge of all the other angels that are in Enoch's presence. So you have the commanders and the officers and the lieutenants, and those 20 deliberately teach Enoch in various disciplines, such as meteorology, astronomy, how to make better swords. Now, would something like this really happen in the kingdom of God? I think the answer is clear.
Where did they come from? What do they want? And if we're dealing with one or more intelligences, that maybe they have different agendas, but maybe there is something out there that has been an ally to evolving hominids, and we're the latest model.
In the Bible, angels often appear to humans as physical entities that can be seen, heard, and even touched. But today, many people believe angels are present, whether they can see them or not. According to a 2008 survey by Baylor University's Institute for Studies of Religion, 55% of all American adults believe a guardian angel protects them.
The popularity of guardian angels in modern culture, I think, has to do with the idea that we want some kind of supernatural protection in a world where we don't really feel very safe oftentimes.